Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. It's the time to be spooky and scary, and it's the month of fear. Now, I'm honestly a baby when it comes to horror, I do get scared pretty easily. However, I love horror games and horror movies, with my favorite horror movies being the Friday the 13th franchise, and Outlast being my favorite horror game of all time, and honestly one of my favorite franchises. I love the Outlast franchise. However, today I want to talk about a very underrated horror game that didn't get a lot of attention, and the attention it did get was sadly pretty negative. I am, of course, talking about Slender the Arrival. Now, I feel like this might be a hot take, but I actually like the Slender Man. I personally think he is scary, frightening, and he also has a really nice suit. Nothing to really do with his game, but I just have to admire it. Like, seriously, just look at it. I have honestly been a fan of this game ever since it came out, and only recently, actually played it after years of watching videos about it and watching YouTubers play it, and now finally playing it for myself. I have to honestly say, this is one of the best horror games ever made of all time. And I know just saying this will upset a lot of people, but I honestly think this game is that good. Now, throughout the game, you play as Lauren, a friend and or sister to a woman named Kate, who at the beginning we are heading towards her house in the middle of the woods. As we enter the house, it's very clear things aren't right. There are drawings all over the wall, and the furniture is kind of thrown around the house. We find a key and then go into Kate's room, where we find a whole bunch of drawings and a broken window and one drawing of a radio tower saying that we need to get there. We hear a scream and we now have to investigate the woods behind the house. Now, I want to say real quick just how fantastic this intro is, and this is honestly something Slender the Arrival does perfectly, and that is the atmosphere. The areas that you explore, whether it be Kate's house, the woods, an old abandoned mine, an old abandoned farm, they are all terrifying just because how slow this game is with building tension. Even the starting area is fantastic at building tension because even from the very beginning of the game, Slenderman is already watching you, and you can even see him outside the window of Kate's house sometimes. And when you leave the house and go to the woods in the backyard, you will constantly see Slenderman standing in the distance or far away, letting you know all too well that you are being watched and you are not safe. We get our first scare when you enter a burned down house and you see a disfigured, kind of like zombie like boy standing there. And when you get close, the screen freaks out and you are pushed away. Afterwards, we go into a building with a message, "Find me Lauren" on the wall, and this is presumably Kate who wrote it. We then enter the next section of the game, which is basically a remake of the Slender the Eight Pages, which was the first Slender game that came out. Now, the entire gameplay of this game is basically just walking around, and you sometimes have to either grab or activate something, and in this section, you have to get 8 pages. Which honestly, I actually really like this section of the game. The entire atmosphere of being lost in the woods in the middle of the night is truly terrifying and honestly a real fear of mine that I actually have. And Slenderman makes it even more scary. There isn't any music playing, so you mostly have to sound the words until Slenderman shows up, and then some music plays which can easily scare you and make you jump, at least it did for me. Now, I know that many people do not like jump scares, but honestly, I don't have an issue with them. I have heard people say that if a horror game is just jump scares, then it's not really horror, but I disagree because, in my opinion, if a game makes you nervous and uncomfortable and even gets you scared, then it is a horror game and it has succeeded in its goal. Now, what's scary to me is different than what's scary to somebody else, but I don't like saying that jump scares aren't horror, especially when Slender the Arrival does it so perfectly. Slender can just show up right in front of you, and combined with the darkness and the quietness of this game, it does get you scared, and especially the more pages you collect, the more aggressive he is. Now, after getting to 8 pages, we wake up and we wake up a few hours later in daylight, and you are close to Oakland Abandoned Mine. Now, this part of the game I feel like is where the AI is really tough and is screwing with you a lot because I personally had a very hard time with this section. Not only do you have Slenderman to deal with, but also a new enemy that chases you throughout the entire facility, and you have to constantly look behind you to see if she is there and blind her with your flashlight. So with dealing with both of these two, especially with Slenderman's AI popping up right in front of you or blocking you, they really make this area hard. And honestly, I feel like that's something that can upset or make a lot of people quit this game, and that is Slenderman's AI and just how unpredictable he is, and just how much he can even screw you so many times. Honestly, most of my deaths in this game came from this area because Slenderman would trap me in a corner and kill me like he did one time after I got all the generators, and then he was blocking me so I couldn't go anywhere, and he killed me. Sadly, I don't have the footage, but that moment right there pissed me off so much. Now this might be because my love for the Souls games and liking just liking being kind of punished in the game. Not being punished too hard, but being punished a little bit and like having that challenge. But I actually really like how hard and difficult Slenderman's AI is. Now after a in my opinion a very hard section of the game, you finally get on the mine and you are now topside. You walk down till you come across a shack with a TV in it, and there are two tapes. There's one called Madison Farm, and the second one has a drawing of a tree, kind of like the same one that were on the pages during the 8 patient section. Now, I will come back to the second tape later because right now I want to focus on Lauren's story. So you watch the second tape, and you get to see Kate in her house drawing until she grabs the camera and she says,
Close on the windows and doors. Just don't let him.
clearly letting us know that Slenderman is there at the house, and now we have to close and lock all the doors and windows. Which, by the way, it's ridiculous that Kate is in this house by herself and she kept all these windows and doors opened and unlocked. Like, I know you live alone in the woods, but come on, have some common sense. Anyway, so you try to close all the doors and windows, however, you are too late and Slenderman gets inside the house. Kate then runs to her room and hides. Slenderman be right behind her, then she's either thrown out or jumps out the window herself, and that's why when Lauren arrives, Kate's window is broken. The tape ends and then we continue going, and then we see that the woods are on fire, and we have to sprint towards the radio tower, which is supposed to be the only safe place for Slenderman. Honestly, a quick side note, this is probably my least favorite part of this game. The fire just makes it very confusing on where you need to go, and Slenderman becomes very annoying in this section because again you don't know where to go, and he blends in like perfectly with the fire. So we arrive there, and after finding a key and running further into the radio tower, we find a burnt body and a tape recorder that when we interact with it, it plays.
I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm so sorry.
We hear some noises and a very loud bang, and then the creature we saw at the beginning runs and knocks Lauren out. Lauren wakes up in the basement of the burnt house and finds a note from both Charlie Madison and from CR about the letter from CR is about the Madison family, and note from Charlie Madison saying that he had to burn down the house. The creature then disappears and we start hearing some crying. It's actually Kate crying. However, when we get close to Kate, she turns into the creature from the mines, fully revealing that she was chasing us in the mines. Lauren is killed and is dragged away. Now that's the end of the story for your character you play as in Slender the Rival. However, there are things I didn't talk about, and I did this on purpose. Because now I want to talk about CR and the second tape I skipped over. Now, throughout the game, we find letters and emails from a man named CR to Kate, and it's revealed through these notes that Kate and CR have been friends for a long time and may have even dated, with Kate's mother not liking CR. Each note you find throughout the game shows that Kate and CR used to sneak out into the woods at night while they were kids and ghost hunt. They both had a traumatic experience while in the woods and start having hallucinations and issues as they have grown older. CR tells his doctors about the problems he has been having, and the doctor tells him that it might be best to confront what happened, and so Kate and CR decide that it would be best if they go into the woods to confront what happened all those years ago. They enter the woods and they are attacked by Slenderman. CR ends up breaking his flashlight and he says it felt like he was being attacked by monsters. He would wake up a few hours later and make his way back to Kate's house and he would see her just staring at her TV, and after failing to get her attention, he decides to leave. CR would later tell Kate that he thinks that she should move somewhere else because how close the house is to the woods. Kate agrees, and this is why Lauren, the character we play as, shows up because she was going to help Kate move. CR then decides to start looking into the disappearance of Charlie Masterson Jr. and goes to the Masterson house to talk to Charles Sr. about his son, but then he is kicked out by Charles. CR would then decide to go to the Masterson farm and see if he can find anything.
The date is September 19th. My name is CR, on site of the Matheson family farm, continuing my investigation in Charlie's disappearance. Let's see what we can turn up.
This entire part of the game is honestly pretty unnerving the entire time you're exploring the farm. Like, there's no music playing and it's just ambience throughout the entire section. While exploring the farm, you will see a figure standing in the dark and you will even see it run very quickly as well. You never really get a good look at it because how dark the cellar is. And when you go to the chapel, you see rows of graves, and after you enter, you see Slenderman standing at the door before disappearing. After grabbing the toys on the floor, you have to sprint out when the creature you saw in the cellar starts chasing you, and CR just barely escapes. After this, CR decides that the only way out is to burn himself and Kate alive, and he tells Kate to meet him at a radio tower. Kate can't go through with it, however CR burns himself anyways. Kate would then return home, and after Slenderman shows up at her house and Kate runs into the woods, she is turned into a proxy and the chaser we see in the abandoned mine. However, who was that thing that chased CR at the farm, or the thing we saw in the burnt house? I think it's time we talk about Charlie Matheson. Throughout the game, you see posters for a missing kid named Charlie Masterson Jr., and after you get out of the mine, you see a teddy bear just sitting there near a tree, and when you interact with it, you get to see what happened to Charlie. Charlie is hanging out at the beach with his mom and dad. His mother tells him that it would be almost time to eat lunch. Charlie sees a flashing toy in the distance and goes to it and grabs it, and after grabbing one, he sees another. Charlie follows a trail of toys until he gets lost in the woods, and his parents start yelling for him, not knowing where he is. You can hear how scared and worried they are. Then you start seeing Slenderman's tentacles come out of the woods, and once one gets a hold of Charlie, you cannot move anymore. If you try, Charlie will start screaming, and it's honestly one of the most terrifying moments in this game, and Charlie is taken by the Slenderman. This flashback shows and tells us that the creature we saw in the burnt house at the beginning, and the creature who chases us at CR the farm and even knocks Lauren out, is Charlie Masterson Jr. It's even more sad when you find out that Charlie Sr. kills himself after seeing Charlie over and over again in his proxy form. And he thinks he is hallucinating since it's been 9 years of Charlie being gone. Now, you may have noticed that all 4 of these characters in the game, they all have a bad ending. Kate and Charlie are turned to proxies and now serve Slenderman for eternity, and Lauren and CR are both killed. I honestly think that this is honestly one of the most scary things about Slenderman, and that is the fact that you can never get away from him. If Slender starts coming for you, then you really do only have 2 options: get turned to a proxy or die. Now, I understand why people wouldn't like this game. Slenderman might not be scary to some. I mean, when he does show up, visually he doesn't really do anything, he just stands there. Also, the AI being tough and even dickish at times, I can understand turning people off, especially in the abandoned mine section. Like, seriously, that was probably the hardest part in the game. However, I honestly loved it because when I finally beat this section, my heart was racing because of the adrenaline that this section brought and just how hard it was. Slenderman, I also find personally very scary. With him being able to just show up anywhere along with the environments this game, it did scare me and make me very uncomfortable. Now, even though I have praised this game so much, why was it hated so much? Why did it get mixed reviews and mixed reactions? And while I don't really care about the reviews of any game, honestly, I think a big issue with this game was how it was when it came out. Now, the version I have on the Xbox One, it has the area behind the house in the prologue. It has the flashback to Charlie, the tapes of CR going to CR's trip to the Matheson farm, and the entire ending scene where you find Kate. However, this wasn't in the original release. There was instead a loading screen after you leave the house, and it went immediately to the 8 pages section. And a lot of the story was cut, it seems like. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they released a game like this because they were reaching the release date and decided instead of delaying it, might as well just release it and update the game later. Honestly, with how the gaming industry is, I wouldn't be surprised, and unlike everyone else, I wouldn't entirely blame the developers if this was true. Yes, they take part of the blame for releasing an unfinished game, however, we have seen many times how much fans freak out when a game is delayed, so developers can work on it longer and release the game when they are ready. I do think most of the blame does go to the developers for releasing a game that isn't finished, that did not have everything in it, but it's also the fans' fault a little because I'm sorry, but so many gamers are just so impatient. Literally, just listen to me complaining about the Halo community, and you can tell just how tired I am because that fan base is very impatient. I am going off. Just get back to Slenderman. Either way, Slender the Arrival was honestly a fantastic game, and in my opinion, it's one of the best horror games of all time. Thank you all for watching, and happy Halloween.